I was getting my doctorate degree, and I heard that there was a job opening here at Eastern Arizona College. And I really think, essentially, that's when my life began. Of course, my family first. I have a dear wife that supports me in everything. And when I came here, we saw this magnificent theater. And it was hot. Oh, it was so hot. And our car broke down. And I remember Ralph Orr, he took us into his home. Was real nice to us. Took us over to have the car fixed. We interviewed and we saw this theater. We said that would be a place for us to be. It wasn't a large theater group at the time. The drama department was real small. But I felt some excitement here in Thatcher. An excitement that I hadn't felt before. There was something here that kept pulling us. And so we accepted the job. When we first started doing plays, we did The Miracle Worker. And of course, that deals with a lot of personal ideas, emotional subjects. And my daughter had just been born at the time. And she played the part of Helen. And in and of itself was emotional, because she played the part of the baby Helen Keller. And throughout her life, she participated in a lot of my plays, and I saw her grow as a person, as an individual. I saw my daughter grow, and my sons and my daughters all did participate. That's one of the reasons I loved the place too so much, is because my family was able to participate in plays and did well. I'm looking around in the theater right now. There's a lot of great memories. I remember when we were doing the play, The Miracle Worker. I was building the set, and you used a little torch to get the colors to come out in the wood, and I can still smell the smoke. We went from a small, tiny department, and the students started to come in with their talent, with their enthusiasm, and then we started competing on a national level. And so we competed in the American College Theater Festival. So we go to these big festivals and we compete with our little play from Eastern Arizona College. Only our play wasn't little. Most of the plays had, what, 5 or 6 people in them? Most of my plays had 40. The talent that came here was phenomenal. What comes to mind right now, we did a play called Playing for Time, about an orchestra that was during the Nazi era. They were in a concentration camp, and in order to stay alive, they played in an orchestra. So we needed a girl that could play piano extremely well, could act extremely well, and also could sing extremely well. So we opened up auditions, and guess what happened? A girl came in that had all 3. Her name was Danielle Hunt. And just not very big, not very tall, but you could see in her eyes, in her expression, and in her emotion that she was able to bring out what the anxiety, the emotion of what those women must have gone through in that concentration camp at the time, trying to stay alive by doing their best to perform. Whether people were happy that we did it or unhappy that we did it, we were averaging a good 10 to 12 plays a year. And that was a lot. And so it took a lot of time on everybody's part. But if it wasn't for those students, it couldn't happen. For example, we had a rehearsal at 6 a.m. in the mornings some years. And guess how many were late? Nobody. Nobody was late. The only thing I noticed is that at times some of the ladies were sitting there putting their makeup on as we were rehearsing in the morning, but they were always there. Also, we had times where we'd rehearse late into the evenings or early into the next morning. There were times we put sets together where it took all night to put a set together. Well, it took a lot more than that, but a few nights before we opened, we did overnighters, and people loved that. The one nice thing about theater is because it ends, but then it begins all over again. You always have that in your heart. You can always think back to that one play or that one experience that you've had with each other, with yourself performing in front of an audience. There's nothing greater than performing in front of an audience and feeling them emote with you, hearing them laugh. We did a play, Fiddler on the Roof, where I was Tevye, Trish Jordan played Golda, and it takes place on a bed. It's big, big dream scene, but on a bed. And so I'm gonna make her really feel bad or real scared, because I'm going to tell her that one of my daughters is going to have to marry the tailor, model Comsoil. And so I'm looking up. I always talk to God in this. Or Tevye always talks to God, and so he says, watch this, this is what I'm going to do. So I jumped into the bed, and of course that night it fell all to pieces, just fell to pieces. And for about 5 minutes the audience was laughing, and she and I were kind of looking at each other and turning away from the audience, and then you have the little jumping around going on, and you have to hold, and you can't break when you're in theater, you can't do that. Anyway, we had a grand time doing that, and to feel the audiences laugh, and then at parts where they would cry, and just the whole process. That's what theater's all about. It's a communication of emotion. And I think that's what myself, other directors, and the students had, was a communication of emotion. I communicated, they communicated with me emotionally. And I think the nostalgia that I feel right now and every day is that those students I will never, ever forget in my life. Never, because that is part of what makes me who I am. Hopefully that's what what makes them part of what they are. And every once in a while I hear from one or some of them, and they say, oh, remember this, remember that. And it's not because you just want to think of the past all the time. It's because you want to feel, that's when I really learned. I learned to honestly, and I can say it without being schmaltzy, to honestly love. I really gained a love for those students. A love that I don't think very few people could really understand. Maybe I put a little too much into the production sometimes. Maybe I put a little bit too much of my soul into it. But the only thing that really mattered was the student. And so I'd like to tell my students and all the people that had anything to do, friends, family, anything that had to do with EAC, anything that had to do with the communication of emotion in theater, I love you. I am Dr. Crae, and I am a fighting Gila monster.